Hey leaders, this is the second video for principles around what marks well-defined leaders. So this is the second one, and this is actually the direct opposite of the negative principle that we looked at for poorly defined leaders. So this one should be, you should remember this one well. So the positive side of this, of what well-defined leaders do, secure leaders do, is that they can remain present and non-anxious in the face of challenge. So again, this is the positive side. They can remain present and non-anxious in the face of challenge. So I'll explain this one similarly to the way that I did the opposite in the poorly defined leaders. So again, here is challenge or conflict. In secure leaders, they can remain present. Words like engage, remain, hang in. That the person who is really secure, they don't run, but they're there with the person or the situation or the problem, and they're working to help figure out a solution instead of running from it. They also are non-anxious. So again, these are people, secure leaders, well-defined leaders. They remain calm when they're confronted or they're in a challenging situation. They're warm, they're not defensive when somebody asks them something or confronts them or gives them feedback. They're not angry. They can remain non-anxious because they're very secure in who they are. And so an outside situation, person, or a comment or a decision, they don't feel threatened by that. Anxious people, poorly defined people, they do. Also, before I give some illustrations, I just wanted to note this is important, is that this says secure leaders will make others anxious and angry at times. If you can remember being around people who are really secure, they draw people out who are insecure, because you have a clear vision in a secure identity, and you will force other people to have to either rise to being secure, or they will continue to be anxious and their insecurities will be drawn out. So just keep that in mind. As you grow in this, you will probably experience more of this from those around you. And before I get into this illustration, I just want you to think about this from a biblical perspective. If you read the Gospels, see how many times Jesus remains present with his disciples and also remains non-anxious in many situations where it would be extremely difficult to do, because Jesus is so secure in who he is. So take, for example, when he's on the boat with his disciples and there's a raging storm and he's sleeping. You remember his disciples come to him and they're saying, Jesus, save us, we're all going to drown. And just watch Jesus' response as he remains with them. He doesn't run from them or just dismiss their comments and not take them into account. He doesn't freak out on them and get angry and say, how could you not, I'm the Son of God, what's wrong with you? But he rebukes them lovingly, and then he rebukes the winds and the waves and calms the situation. But it's situations like that you see Jesus handling, both being present and non-anxious all the time, because he's operating out of his identity. Now I want to look at this an example that you guys will be able to relate to, and I think that you could find yourself in this situation. So again, there's many, but here it is. So this is you right here, and let's say you have the idea of you want to throw a party for the non-Christians that you've been evangelizing, and you and your ministry partner, your friend, you're going to do this on a Friday night. And so you ask your friend, he's going to take care of, or he or she is going to take care of getting the pizzas for the party. So Friday night rolls around and everyone's showing up to your house. All these people you've kind of just met in the last month, so you're not great friends. But they're all there, and your friend shows up and he doesn't have the pizzas. Okay, so at this moment, it's pretty awkward, right? Like, a lot of these people might have come for the food, and now one of the main reasons they're not, that they came, is not present with them, namely the food. So if this is you, again, this is a situation where you're going to be forced to operate out of both of these things, and your security in Christ is going to determine how you will respond. The secure leader is going to remain present with their friend in this situation. They're not going to just immediately dismiss them or just say, well, you figure it out. This isn't my problem. They're going to engage their friend and work together to figure out a solution, to figure out how they're going to get food for these people. The secure leader is going to remain non-anxious. They're not going to get angry at their friend. They're not going to blame them. They're not going to get defensive and say that this is all your fault. They're not going to bring up their past mistakes and how they're the worst schedule in the world and that this, that's what insecure leaders do. Now, what I'm not saying is that that you never need to confront your friend on their mistake. That would be something that would usually be appropriate to do after the situation is over, when you've kind of calmed down. But secure leaders, they will remain non-anxious and present, and actually they can work together to figure out, okay, the pizza's not here. That's a fact. We need to move on from that, and we need to engage with each other on what we're going to do to feed these people. And that could result into a fine decision. But if you can't remain secure, you will just let the anxiety in the situation get the best of you, usually resulting in something that you don't want to have happen. So this is principle number 2 for well-defined leaders, that they remain present and that they're not anxious.